Okay, so thank you very much, and for me it's really a great pleasure to have such a diverse and rich panel to discuss a topic like fintech. We have a representation here from very good and long-standing entrepreneurs like Rodrigo, connecting fintech currently with a very innovative platform. We have a fintech on the B2B space. We have an accelerator with a long-standing as well on accelerating not only companies in the end, but creating corporate VC experience. And we have the legal side as well. So I think we have a great opportunity to hear from very different points of view. And let me first start with Rodrigo. And coming from a great experience, Finnovating is connecting very many, I would say, thousands of fintechs. So maybe you can introduce an overview of where are you seeing trends coming? Where are you seeing that things are happening, the hottest things, the things that you are seeing as coming in the financial sector space?
So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a real pleasure to be here. And things are happening very quick. Things are happening in the financial and the fintech industry very quick. I can say that during the last years, after the pandemic was an accelerator of the digital transformation of the financial sector in most of the sides. And we saw a very impact in terms of the investment, in terms of the growth of a lot of fintechs and impacting in the digital transformation. Last year has changed a little bit in terms of obviously the amount of money going to the fintechs, and we are seeing that some of them are even pivoting from B2C to B2B. And on the other side, we are seeing that today worldwide 2 out of 3 of the fintechs are B2B. One of the most interesting things that are happening right now is how the fintechs are working in embedded finance, how they are creating different businesses in order to impact in the different ways or in different structure of the value chains of the finance sector. And this is going to happen, and in the next years, we are going to see an amazing collaboration between not only the big banks or the big corporations using the startups or the scale-ups. We are going to see amazing amount of any kind of corporation collaborating between them. Why? Because this is not just about the APIs. This is about creating spaces to create and collaborate. And this is what I'm seeing. And also, we can talk later on about what is happening with artificial intelligence, for example. That is another amazing trend. Okay,
thanks so much, Rodrigo. Faisal, maybe we can take the standpoint of a startup. How to approach successful model? We were discussing, what's more important? It's more important the product, or it's more important the distribution? So how do you start a company that aims to be successful? Where do you focus?
Yeah, this is, thank you for the panel. And this is a very complex but a very important question that I'm still somehow trying to figure out. So the quick answer is, I think they should be considered as 2 sides of the same coin. I think as a fintech founder especially, you need to be completely obsessed by both the product and distribution, because you need both to success. This is the main first message. In my personal perspective, I started more inclined into the product. I love the product, and I had impact on the product quite quickly, so I just went through there in my early days, months of fintecture. And over time, I just tried to switch into distribution, and now I split my time between both. I see more people fail in distribution than fail in build the product. I think if you have smart people, product is somehow more predictable than distribution. So if I'm an investor, I would rather focus on distribution than the product. But as a founder, you need to do both. I think if you have a great product and weak distribution, you are dead. If you have a great distribution and weak product, maybe you have a second chance to build a product.
Okay, so bottom line, probably we need both, right?
Exactly.
The focus that you need to put on the different stages probably tilt from one to the other. So very interesting. Let's take the investor's perspective, Philippe. So from your standpoint, where do you see value? What is the things that you like to see when you're approaching a fintech? What makes you really be attracted by a particular fintech? What does it make it for a fintech to be an attractive project where you would put the money?
Thanks, Luis. So many of you might not know, but Zone to Boost is a joint venture between CaixaBank, Global Payments, and Ingenico. So kind of their focus with this was to help startups grow through their commercial network. And kind of what we were looking for is those fintechs, right? That those kind of solutions that are completely new. And kind of what we were looking is, first of all, products that make sense within the strategies of the corporates. So kind of from the very beginning, you're kind of looking at, will this be something interesting for us in the future? How will we help it grow? So kind of a win-win approach. And when we're evaluating this startup, sometimes you come up with, startups come to you that you were not expecting it to be part of your strategy, right? Kind of that's the thing, no? You can read a lot of trend reports, you can predict a lot of things that could happen in the future and elaborate your innovation roadmaps, but sometimes completely new things appear and you have to reevaluate everything. So kind of when fintechs come to us, we want that feeling of, we weren't expecting that, but this is extremely interesting for us. And we kind of try to fit it in within the strategies that were already elaborated. And if this is something that our clients will want, so that's kind of the product market fit, right? That's one of the main things, and the market scalability potential for it. Those are the main things that we kind of look for, if it's something our clients will want, basically.
Great. Okay, and whenever it comes to the financial sector, regulation is a key element. So we're lucky, and every fintech should have a lawyer close, right? So luckily we have a lawyer in the room. So from your perspective, what are the main challenges a fintech faces when approaching regulation? In many cases, you're finding entrepreneurs for which their core main domain is definitely not regulation, but they still need to face that seriously. So what are the kind of recommendations you would give fintech entrepreneurs and fintech companies in general? What are the kind of challenges that you see coming from the legal and regulatory side?
Well, many thanks, Luis. Well, it seems that the regulation is always a problem or an obstacle to financial innovation, but this is not always the case. We have to consider that the regulation is neutral with respect to the use of technology. The regulation is always the same, regardless of whether or not technology is used on an intensive basis. So this provides a wide flexibility. Actually, we can see more and more new regulations that are consistent with a digital world. For example, we have a new regulation on the use of blockchain technology for the securities market. We have new rules on client identification on distance through electronic means for anti-money laundering purposes. We have also, or we can see a more collaborative approach of authorities. For example, in Spain, it's possible for startups to submit questions to the Spanish regulator just to confirm whether their business model is regulated. We have also the Sandbox, that is in which it's possible to test innovative products in a closed environment controlled by the authorities, and we have this since 3 years ago. And it is true that there are some areas in which the lack of regulation has entailed problems and continue to entail problems. This is the case, for example, of crypto assets. Luckily, we have a new regulation in Europe, MiCA regulation, but this is not the case in all countries. For example, all these investigations that we see now on the news, in the US, investigations to large crypto platforms, they are related to the lack of regulation in the US, for example. We had the same problem in Europe with respect to open banking. Until the full implementation of the European Directive on payment services, open banking fintech companies were not able to provide open banking services to their clients due to restrictions and the refusal of banks to open and to share their information with third parties.
Okay.
Maybe, Luis, if I have one moment about this, because I think it's very important for the perspective of fintech founder to focus on financial regulation. There are very small number of events or things that can kill your startup as a fintech, and there is very small number of this life or death events, and failing to comply with regulation could be one of them, is certainly one of them. And especially if you focus on enterprise customers, it could kill you overnight. So I think as a founder, you cannot skip the financial regulation. You need to know it exactly, and you need to comply with it. I think better to do it earlier than later, because it's easier somehow to build a culture that is compliant and regulation-friendly day one than try to change it afterwards. It's a little bit complex because you need to iterate to look for your market fit, product market fit, and still complying with the regulator. But I definitely encourage founders to take this very seriously.
We could even take probably the stance that regulation is not only a constraint but an enabler. In some cases, a lot of business models, especially those that we call RegTech, are born on the fact that a lot of the regulation is complex and has a lot of areas that can be significantly improved thanks to the use of many technologies. So we have the two angles, but I really think the 2 points are very crucial ones. So, I mean, comply with regulation and do it early. Do it from your business model on day one. Exactly. And I think that's a very good and useful tip. Rodrigo, maybe we can come back to something that you mentioned and probably gave us with an important taste of interest, which is AI. So we cannot escape talking about AI probably in any field, definitely not in fintech. So ChatGPT, is it a game changer? GPT is going to be disrupting. You're always doing things with GPT, and probably one of the few fintechs that has already launched a solution on that field. How do you see that? Where do you see the opportunities, the challenges? How do you see that?
That's an amazing question. We are in love with the AI, and this is why we are using the GPT technologies to do amazing things. Let me tell you how we are using it. So we create like 3 levels or 3 layers of disruption. The first one was, why don't create a LinkedIn for tech companies or corporations, a B2B, to connecting, you know? We can connect everyone to anyone using this LinkedIn, but we need something for B2B. And we have this amazing event, but it only lasts 3 days. What is going to happen the rest of the year? So we said, we are going to connect all this community of tech companies and corporations. The next level was, we use Tinder for dating. So when we start to use artificial intelligence to connect these companies, if we are able to know who you are, we are not going to be able to connect you with the right startup, with the right investor, or with the right company that is looking to you. Because at the end, the artificial intelligence is a best way to use the data. And the third layer is why we are not going to use GPT. So what is GPT? GPT is the way of using all this data in another way. And this is what we have done. We started using GPT to create the first B2B match GPT, the first B2B GPT for business. And the situation was amazing because at the beginning, when you start to use these technologies and connect with these technologies, it's like, you know, it's like you are talking with someone who is wanting to learn. So you give him information, and he answered. So you have to train like a baby. And he's starting to understand what you want. You take information, you put more information, you eliminate information in order to have this solution. And after 4 months, we were able to have a GPT, a conversational, a real conversational, that this is not about tell me what is the best fintech in Kenya using AI for payments. It's tell me what is the best fintech that I have to visit when I go to Mexico, or tell me what is the best company that fits to me using, I don't know, whatever technology and whatever activity in one country or whatever place. So this is more qualitative. This is not, we are not going to look for any more houses, two rooms, 300,000 euros. They say, I want a house for me with light in the center around of, clubs, bars, or a park. This is, the difference between the data of the past and the data in the future. And this is what is going to happen. This is an example, MatchGPT, but we are going to see in the future an amazing wide range of GPT services transforming the world at the end for a better world. This is about doing the things more efficiently.
And that is part of an agenda that is changing so fast. And it is even under the scrutiny of regulation, right? So, Miguel, what can you tell us about that? I mean, do you feel regulation is going to come as well to the area of AI? Are we going to set boundaries? There's a lot of discussion on the European Commission really defining the rules, the ethics around AI. So what should someone developing bear in mind that it's going to be the framework coming?
Yes, I think that there are several challenges and opportunities for fintech in the coming years. One of them is the use of artificial intelligence that can be useful in order to purposes like fraud prevention, identification of clients, credit scoring, but it's true that entails some problems and some challenge. Actually, there is a new regulation on the way in the European Union in order to prohibit certain uses of artificial intelligence and to restrict the use for other purposes. In relation to that, there are other challenges. For example, the provision of financial services through the metaverse. This is something that can imply some challenges with respect to the location of the services, the location of the service provider, and the applicable law to those services. Actually, the metaverse is one of the priorities for the regulation in the European Union, so we will see some regulation in the future. We have also challenged in all the matters related to cybersecurity. There is a new regulation that is DORA regulation in the European Union that wants to require financial entities in general to prevent, detect, and to solve any kind of cybersecurity or IT incidents or risk in their entities, in their business. And there are other challenges, like, for example, the consolidation of open banking. There is an initiative or a proposal of the European Union in order to analyze whether the open banking services should be extended not only to payment services as of today, but also to other services, investment services, loans, and other financial instruments and other financial information. And lastly, I would say that also ESG can be a challenge and opportunity for fintech. We are in an increasing environment, regulated environment on ESG with further requirements every day. And I think that the fintech companies may have a challenge, but also now an opportunity with respect to ESG, considering their business model that can be more sustainable in comparison with traditional banks.
Okay, so it looks like fintechs are navigating complex waters, right? From the regulatory side to the technology side. Miguel, how can we help them? Sorry, Philippe, how can we help them? I mean, you, from your side, from Zone to Boost, you're trying to make their life a little bit easier.
Yeah.
What you can provide that makes a little bit simpler for them facing some of those challenges, or the many others that a fintech might have?
Yeah. Basically, I mean, in terms of investment in general, I think all VCs, they want to bring a lot of value to their portfolio. That's one of the main objectives of Zone to Boost, Plug and Play, and all the ecosystem involved within my day-to-day. I think that one of the main values is, in earlier stages, it's more of an advisory role. I mean, in Zone to Boost, we've got 3 of the largest financial corporates in the world, and obviously we've got a lot of talent there that we can share with them. Sometimes portfolio companies come to us with certain doubts of creating a new product, a new business model within their existing one, and they're not sure if this is possible, if this is something the market will want. They have a lot of doubts, and that's kind of the first thing we can do. We can connect with the right people within the corporates, and just to bring that knowledge closer to a startup. And sometimes even in the corporate, there's a lot of people with a lot of bright ideas that can't execute them because they don't have the speed and maybe even the necessary funds dedicated to that specific task. So they're really eager to collaborate with them. And obviously on more later stages, when the startup is ready, or even the corporate is ready, because it depends a lot on the corporate strategies, we try to connect through pilots and POCs with those startups. That's kind of our main goal, obviously, through that through Zone to Boost, is to create those pilots and help the startups actually connect with the market. Because obviously, when you have a great product, when you have a great team, you need to go to the market, to the customers. You can do that with your own sales team, and when you've got stellar salespeople, it's always something really fun. But to leverage huge channels that are already established, it makes it easier, especially when you want to open a new country. For example, we've invested in French companies, in the UK, a few from the US. If they wanted to come to Spain, CaixaBank and the players we've got here local, we can help them a lot on that. And also when they want to go, Spanish companies want to go to US or France, for example, we've got Ingenico and Global Payments that really have good networks there. And that's kind of the main goal. Basically help them go to the market and grow. And it's a win-win because startups grow, obviously, that's kind of their main goal. And the corporates offer extremely new and innovative products to their client base.
Great to see the point of view of an investor. Let's take the point of view again of a startup. From the things that have been mentioned, how do you see the disruption coming? I would say from two very main technologies disrupting now, AI, blockchain. Do you agree those are some of the two that are being most disruptive today? What's your take on those?
Yes, I think first AI and blockchain, generative AI and blockchain probably are the most two main significant technologies of the last decade. I don't know what is the scale yet. Is it a scale of internet or of mobile or whatever? I mean, we are in this kind of scale of disruption and technologies. Probably we had some random use cases for them in the early days, both for blockchain and for AI. And now we are starting to hit mass adoption, especially for generative AI. And what amazes me most at this moment is the speed with which incumbents are implementing these technologies. If you see what Adobe or Microsoft or even big startups like Notion or these guys are already implementing all this innovation into their products. So it makes it harder for startups to have this speed, because the discussion is, will the incumbent build the product before the startup builds distribution? It's always this challenge, and now we see incumbent building the products almost much faster than the startups. On the implementation side, I think at Fintech we've put together very early on, I think in the first weeks of the launch of GPT-4, a group internally with our compliance teams and different departments to see how can we use the most of this technology while keeping compliant. And my opinion is, if as a business, whatever the business is, tech, fintech, or whatever, if you don't transfer a large fraction of your operations into these technologies by end of this year, you will be at disadvantage as of next year. So it's really, again, a matter of, it's very important to jump into this innovation very quickly because it's already massively adopted.
And keep seeing what's the next big thing coming, right? And coming to that, Rodrigo, seeing the next big thing, what's coming next? How do you see, what trends do you see in open innovation coming to be disruptive in the next few years?
So I would say that on one side is the opportunities that are going to happen. Let me tell you that today there are 32,000 fintechs in the world. We have in Spain operating 1,600. So it's amazing the number of fintechs and startups that are appearing. The problem is that what is a fintech? A fintech is not a fintech anymore. A fintech has a name, but has a lot of surnames. And we can see now fintechs with doing maybe 20, 30 kind of activities through maybe the fintech, the proptech, or whatever activity. The second and the most amazing thing is, the collaboration that is happening between the corporations and the startups. During the last 10 years, I've been related with a lot of projects of collaboration, and I see the most, successful ones were, the big ones, the big players, that they have, clear structure and clear strategy to work. But it's going to change because there are, the rest of the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 companies in the world. They need to collaborate with these startups if they want to become competitive. Otherwise, they are going to not disappear, because this is not about yes or not, but you are not going to be as important as before. You're not going to have the same impact. And probably some of them that are going to disappear, or at the end they are going to be merged with other companies. But you need this. And the third is about technology. every single 2, 3, 4 years appears something that is changing everything. I think the regulators should be, exhausted. Because we came from, blockchain, crypto, DeFi, metaverse, AI, GPT. They are exhausted, overwhelmed. Not only the lawyers, but imagine the regulators. They don't know how, and what is going to be the next. But for the tech part, it's amazing. It's amazing what is happening. What is, the easy, how the easy is to get these technologies to create new activities to work with. And I think, blockchain is in a very good maturity state to carry on working and carry on doing things. And on the other side, I see, for example, the AI impacting in different ways of the companies, not only in sales, marketing, tech areas, compliance areas, in everything. And in fact, it's going also to impact in open innovation. So I see the future of the open innovation much more intelligent. I see an AI open innovation future in terms that it's going to be easier to find the right company and to find the right people or the right entrepreneurs, the right technologies, the right business models that are going to be able to be connected. Because otherwise, when you try to connect with a company and at the end, the proof of concept or whatever is not working, this is going to have an impact in the company, in the corporation, that is say, oh, no more. Imagine you are really small, you don't have enough resources. It's quite important to identify the right company to dance. This is your peer. I want the perfect one to connect. So this is why, obviously, the AI is also helping and is going to accelerate these connections, and this is what we see in the future.
Okay, we're running out of time, but I don't want to miss the opportunity. There's a lot of investors in the room to go back to investors' opinion, and you have less than 1 minute to respond, both Miguel and Philippe. What is the role of a corporate VC? How can a corporate VC have a role here, and what should investors look at from the legal perspective? You have less than 1 minute each to just give a final perspective on the investor side on these 2 points.
Well, I think that the VCs should consider or should analyze and should understand to which extent the regulation has been considered in the startup, in the fintech startup, from the beginning of this activity. I think it's important to consider the regulation from the very beginning, to involve lawyers. We know that we are boring, we can be expensive, but it's important to involve lawyers from the very beginning because we can be helpful in order to identify the minimum viable product in order that it can be feasible from the legal perspective and can be realistic, because we come across in Quatre Casas fintech projects that are great ideas from the IT perspective, from the business perspective, but it's very difficult, very complex to fit them into regulation. And it's better to identify these problems from the beginning than later.
Philippe?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But also, I'm really excited about this new technology for how it will help founders create these new startups. So something I'm going to be looking at in the future is, are they using these new technologies to make it quicker? Because sometimes you have 2 founders, one business profile, one tech profile, but their knowledge is limited in terms of creating the product. They're going to need to hire a lot of people, and sometimes for the MVP, it's not enough. With these new technologies, they will have a lot of help on creating these new products. So I expect to see really good quality products at a really initial stage, something that right now you can find sometimes. Obviously, there's great founders out there, but it's more reserved more for seed stages maybe when have the funding. So that's kind of what I'm really looking forward to see really great products at a really early stage.
Okay, thank you so much. I think you gave very broad perspective coming from very different points of view. So thank you very much for your participation. Thanks.
Thank you.